Ah, the 2010s. The decade of Instagram filters, skinny jeans, and Vine compilations. A time when Call Me Maybe was inescapable and everybody had a hoverboard, even if they caught on fire after 5 minutes. I'm 27, and people around my age love to talk about the 2010s. Whether it's the music, the fashion, the tech, or even the culture, everyone remembers that era fondly. And when it comes to basketball, most of us don't just remember it, we swear by it. To a whole generation of fans, this was the golden era. The most exciting, dramatic, talent-rich stretch the league has ever seen. They call it the pace and space era. But to those who lived through it, it was something bigger. This wasn't just a shift in the game. It was a shift in everything. From the way fans watched to the way players tweeted and chose their destinies. Social media didn't just give fans a voice, it gave players the microphone. And the NBA leaned into it hard. Scoring exploded. Super teams formed in plain sight. MVPs changed jerseys. Kids stopped practicing post moves and started launching threes from half court. The league went from grinded out slugfests to nightly highlight reels and broken records. Some loved it, others hated it, but nobody could ignore it. We also said goodbye to the final echoes of an older era, the last warriors from the generation that built the bridge between Jordan and today. They had shaped our childhoods, defined greatness in silence, and stepped away just as the league they helped carry was being reborn. Basketball didn't just evolve. The game got faster, the floor stretched wider, and the pressure expanded beyond the arena. You couldn't just muscle your way to a win or rely on outdated schemes. You had to think quicker, shoot farther, and move smarter. This wasn't just a new era, it was a war for the future of the sport. If you saw our last video, you already know we broke down the gritty, unforgiving basketball of the 2000s. But what came next wasn't just evolution, it was a complete reinvention of the game. This is a full recap of the 2010s. In the summer of 2009, Kobe Bryant finally stood atop a mountain built solely by his own determination. The whispers that had long chased him, questions of whether he could truly succeed without Shaquille O'Neal, fell silent. The championship he won against the Orlando Magic wasn't merely about victory. It was validation. It was proof. Kobe had not only climbed the peak, he had conquered it alone. Yet, the NBA waits for no one. Even as Kobe soaked in the moment, celebrating the fulfillment of his life's ambition, the rest of the league was already turning its gaze forward, plotting their paths to dethrone the newly crowned king. Let's start in Cleveland. The Cavaliers felt urgency more acutely than anyone. Their young superstar, LeBron James, was the reigning MVP, a generational talent whose clock was quietly ticking towards free agency. Determined not to squander their opportunity, Cleveland gambled on a fading legend.
Now, Mark, that much talked about trade of Shaq to Cleveland has happened.
They traded for Shaquille O'Neal, not the unstoppable force he once was, but a figure still powerful enough to symbolize their desperation. It was a message: win now or risk losing LeBron forever. Orlando, fresh off their finals disappointment, made a drastic shift of their own. In search of that elusive final piece, they parted ways with veteran Hedo Turkoglu, the steady playmaker whose calm presence had anchored the run, and replaced him with Vince Carter. The Magic envisioned Vince's dazzling scoring ability to carry them further, unaware they had just exchanged the heart of their team for a hollow flash. The defending champions weren't resting either. The Lakers chose to replace Trevor Ariza, a proven playoff hero, with none other than Ron Artest, whose fiery temperament and unpredictable nature promised either brilliance or turmoil. Kobe, who's never one to shy from risk, embraced this decision wholeheartedly. To him, repeating his champions required boldness, intensity, and a willingness to flirt with chaos. The 2009 NBA draft unfolded with quiet significance. Blake Griffin, a powerful and dynamic athlete, was selected first by the Clippers, but fate quickly intervened, robbing him of his entire rookie season through injury. Although a few picks later, somebody slipped in the draft. Golden State selected a skinny guard from Davidson named Stephen Curry, a choice that was overshadowed at the time, but destined to rewrite the future of basketball. As the regular season opened, familiar storylines returned, each infused with a sense of heightened urgency. The Lakers moved through the early months with calm, calculated confidence, pacing themselves with the assurance that real battles lay ahead. Kobe played through injuries with quiet ferocity, delivering signature moments, game winners, scoring outbursts, relentless competitiveness, all of which reminded opponents exactly who they were chasing. The Cavaliers stormed through the Eastern Conference again, powered by LeBron's nightly brilliance. But something beneath the surface felt unsettled. Despite piling up wins, the weight of expectation and the uncertainty of LeBron's future casted a shadow over every success. Boston, once a dominant force, now moved more slowly. Age had caught up with their core. Kevin Garnett battled chronic knee pain. Paul Pierce showed signs of fatigue. Ray Allen's legendary jumper occasionally faltered. But their pride remained fierce. They embodied veteran defiance, knowing that their window was closing but unwilling to concede easily. Out in Oklahoma City, A young, unheralded team was quietly emerging. Kevin Durant, barely old enough to buy a beer, captured his first ever scoring title, elevating a previously ignored Thunder squad into a genuine playoff threat.
KD on the lob, and there's the record. Kevin Durant has now put up more points in a single season than any player in franchise history.
Alongside Durant, Russell Westbrook brought raw intensity, and James Harden hinted at his vast potential. Very few outside of Oklahoma City took them seriously yet, but those who watched them closely recognized the storm gathering on the horizon. By midseason, the NBA showcased its explosive growth at All-Star Weekend, hosted at the Cowboy Stadium in Dallas. Over 100,000 fans gathered, transforming an exhibition into an unprecedented spectacle. Dwayne Wade dazzled winning All-Star Game MVP. Durant shone brightly. LeBron dominated. This weekend underscored basketball's evolution into something larger, a global phenomenon driven by individual charisma and entertainment. As spring arrived, playoff basketball transformed the season from an endurance race into a desperate sprint for survival. Oklahoma City pushed the Lakers to their absolute limit, serving notice that their time would soon come. The crowd in OKC was electrified, but the Lakers prevailed, narrowly avoiding disaster. In the East, Boston dismantled Miami. Despite Wade's breathtaking 46-point performance in Game 4, it was clear Miami superstar was tired of fighting alone. Up north in Cleveland, tension boiled over against Boston in round 2. Game 5 would become infamous, a night that LeBron appeared distant and disengaged, scoring only 15 points as the Cavs fell into disarray. The Celtics closed them out soon after, sending shockwaves through the league. LeBron walked off the court, jersey in hand, leaving an unsettling silence in his wake. Back out west, the Lakers navigated past Utah and faced Phoenix in the conference finals. Game 5 delivered an iconic moment.
Bryant, yes!
Kobe's impossible fadeaway over Grant Hill, punctuated by a casual tap on Suns coach Alvin Gentry's back as the ball dropped through the net. The Lakers advanced, setting a stage for a rematch with their oldest rivals, the Boston Celtics. The 2010 NBA Finals unfolded as a gritty, brutal affair, a relentless 7-game battle filled with bruises, heartbreak, and resilience. Both teams played with desperations, their legacies hanging in the balance. Game 7 was an ugly, exhausting slugfest. We saw Kobe struggle from the field, shooting just 6 for 24, but great players find other ways. He grabbed critical rebounds, attacked relentlessly, and willed his team to the brink of victory. And then came Ron Artest.
Artest, that's a three. Bang!
Once considered a liability, now hitting the biggest shot of his career, securing the Lakers championship. Los Angeles erupted in celebration. Kobe embraced all of his teammates, having secured his 5th title, one more than Shaq.
The Lakers repeat back-to-back titles. The LA Lakers, the 2010 NBA champions.
For Boston, losing the 2010 finals shattered them. They had poured everything into that 7-game war. They led late in Game 7, but injuries, fatigue, and the absence of Kendrick Perkins caught up to them. For Garnett, Pierce, Allen, and Rondo, this wasn't just a loss, it was a stolen legacy. They had already beaten Kobe in 2008. Doing it again would have cemented them as the defining team of the era. That loss left a bitter taste they could never truly wash out. For the Lakers, this wasn't just another banner. It was the culmination of a years-long climb back from the rubble of their early 2000s dynasty. After Shaq was traded and Phil Jackson briefly stepped away, the franchise plunged into disarray. Kobe Bryant remained, but he was left carrying a broken team and an unforgiving spotlight. He endured forgettable rosters, missed the playoffs, and faced relentless criticism, not just of his game, but of his leadership, his ego, his ability to win alone. But he never ran from that weight. When the right pieces finally arrived, Gasol's finesse, Bynum's size, Odom's versatility, Artest's chaos, Kobe shaped them into champions. The 2009 had proven that he could win without Shaq, but 2010 was something deeper. It became redemption.
He's got one more than Shaq.
The season's end brought individual accolades. LeBron claimed his 2nd straight MVP award. Tyreek Evans earned Rookie of the Year. Dwight Howard repeated his Defensive Player of the Year. Jamal Crawford won 6-man honors. Aaron Brooks received Most Improved Player. And Scott Brooks was recognized as the Coach of the Year. Kobe's 5th ring wasn't just a number, it was closure. It was proof that everything he'd endured, the isolation, the criticism, the years spent dragging average teams through the mud, had led to something that was entirely his. He had rewritten the narrative, finished the story on his own terms, and etched his name alongside the greatest to ever play. This marked the 16th championship for the Lakers, just one shy of Boston, but in many ways, far more meaningful. It was the exorcism of 2008, the final act of a core that had clawed its way back to glory. For Phil Jackson, it was the final jewel in the crown. The perfect ending to the greatest coaching career the sport has ever seen. And for Kobe, it was the last great mountain that he would climb. He didn't know it at the time, but this would be his final championship. And when he reached the top, the Black Mamba struck one final time. Deadly, precise, and unforgettable. This wasn't just a win. It was revenge. It was legacy. It was everything. Quick side note, if you guys are enjoying the video, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Also follow my Twitch where I stream Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern. That, as well as my Discord server, is linked down below. No, for real, join that Discord because I need more people to talk hoops with. Anyways, back to the video. Moments of true change are rare. They come suddenly, sharply, and leave scars no one can see, but everyone can feel. As the echoes of Kobe Bryant's 5th championship faded away, the NBA stood on the edge of one of those rare moments, a decision that would alter the league forever. LeBron James, the hometown hero, had given Cleveland 7 seasons of brilliance, but no championships. 25 years old and already the face of the NBA, had the eyes of the sports world on him. Fans, teammates, former legends, all waiting to hear where the league's most gifted player would write his next chapter. And then came the line.
Oh, man, this is very tough. In this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
A calm sentence, delivered without malice. But in Cleveland, all hell broke loose.
Drag us through the mud for 7 years and stab us in the heart. He deserves everything he gets. I hope he never wins anything in Miami. He is dead to me.
This wasn't just another free agency move. It was a seismic shift, a public spectacle that changed how players viewed their own power. Miami already had Dwayne Wade, the fearless superstar who carried the Heat alone for years. They also quickly added Chris Bosh, Toronto's versatile franchise cornerstone. The Heat transformed overnight into basketball's greatest villain, a team built on star power and boldness. Cleveland had invested everything in LeBron. He was their native son, the chosen one, the promise of something more. And in that moment, it all turned to ash. Their fury was immediate. Dan Gilbert, the Cavaliers owner, published a scathing open letter within hours, calling LeBron selfish and the decision was a cowardly betrayal. It read like the words of a man more wounded than angry. Fans didn't just lose a player, they lost belief. And while Cleveland mourned, Miami celebrated. This wasn't a press conference, it was a party. The newly formed trio didn't hold back. They smiled, they flexed, they talked about rings. Not just one, not two,
not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7.
That celebration lit the fire that would follow them all season. The promise of dominance came off as arrogance, the showmanship as mockery. The Miami Heat became the most hated team in sports. But it wasn't just about hate, it was about power. LeBron, Wade, and Bosh hadn't just joined forces, they had chosen each other. No trades, no front office deals, they coordinated this themselves. It was the dawn of player empowerment, the first visible crack in the old system. Every arena they visited was a battleground, every mistake magnified. The Heat weren't just playing basketball, they were performing on a stage they had built themselves. And once the lights came on, there was nowhere to hide. Teams scrambled to respond. The Chicago Bulls, hungry to relive the glory days, quietly stacked their roster around a rising star named Derrick Rose. The Lakers stayed mostly intact, confident in their championship core, while Boston added former All-Star Shaquille O'Neal, aging but hungry for one final ring. The draft passed quietly compared to LeBron's decision, but Kentucky guard John Wall brought new excitement to the Washington Wizards, symbolizing fresh hope for a franchise in desperate need of it. From opening night, Miami felt the weight of the target they'd willingly placed on their backs. Every arena greeted them with hostility. Every loss celebrated like a championship by opposing fans. Chemistry wasn't immediate, egos clashed, roles were uncertain, and early struggles drew relentless criticism. Yet slowly, behind Wade's leadership and LeBron's relentless talent, they found their rhythm and they started to dominate. In Chicago, Derrick Rose was playing out of his mind. He dazzled crowds nightly, slicing through defenses with breathtaking explosiveness. His humility and fierce competitiveness won over a basketball world tired of off-court drama, positioning the Bulls at the top of the East. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, Kobe Bryant and the Lakers pursued a three-peat. Battling fatigue and injuries, Kobe knew that every game counted. Sensing that the league was changing beneath his feet, the Lakers pushed forward, formidable, yet weary. The aging Celtics stubbornly defied critics again. Garnett's knees screamed in protest. Pierce moved a bit slower, and Allen struggled with inconsistency. Yet their pride propelled them forward. This felt like their final chance. Every possession mattered deeply. Across the country, a promising Oklahoma City squad matured before everyone's eyes.
Durant, right side angle, 3 for 3, and the win, it's online! Got it! Kevin Durant, got it! Thunder win! 104, 102, oh, baby!
Durant's calm dominance continued. Westbrook's explosive unpredictability blossomed into brilliance, and a young James Harden started showing flashes of future stardom. They were no longer a novelty, they were a real threat. All-Star Weekend was back in Los Angeles with Blake Griffin finally healthy. And in case you don't believe me, He jumped over a literal Kia, signaling that the Clippers, long overshadowed by the Lakers, might finally emerge from the shadows. But it was still Kobe who walked away with the All-Star MVP award. The playoffs arrived, and the Heat silenced skeptics, crushing Philadelphia easily, then defeating their rival Celtics in a series filled with emotional intensity. As Boston left the floor, there was a quiet realization. Their window shut by the very super team model they'd inadvertently helped inspire. Back in Chicago, they were being led by Rose's relentless spirit. They convincingly ran through Indiana and Atlanta. When the Bulls finally clashed with Miami in the Eastern Conference Finals, the showdown felt inevitable. A collision of a team built on chemistry and grit against one built on star power. Game 1 belonged to Rose in Chicago, but Miami adjusted swiftly. Wade and LeBron suffocated the Bulls defensively, attacking relentlessly, ultimately overwhelming Rose, who played heroically but alone. Miami took the series in 5 hard-fought games, securing their place in the NBA Finals. Now let's head back out west. Dallas defied expectations. Dirk Nowitzki played like a man rewriting his own narrative, lifting a veteran Mavericks team past Portland, sweeping Kobe's Lakers in stunning fashion, highlighted by a Mother's Day massacre in Game 4, and overpowering a young explosive Thunder team that simply wasn't ready yet. The finals arrived with everyone expecting Miami's victory, but Dirk had carried scars from 2006, when these same Heat crushed his dreams. He refused to live through that nightmare again. Miami took a commanding 2-1 lead, yet something shifted in Game 4. LeBron James, under relentless pressure, shrunk from the moment. Dirk Nowitzki, playing through illness, injury, and exhaustion, elevated his game, hitting clutch shot after clutch shot. In Game 6, Dallas completed the redemption. Dirk, overcome with emotion, ran straight to the locker room, weeping privately as years of heartbreak lifted from his shoulders. Jason Kidd, after decades of near misses, finally grasped his elusive championship. LeBron collapsed under pressure, especially in fourth quarters. He was completely outshined by Dirk Nowitzki's poise and will. The Heat's arrogance, highlighted by their preseason celebration, blew up in their faces, and the world relished watching them fail. It wasn't just a loss, it was a public unraveling. But that defeat ultimately humbled LeBron, reshaped the team's mindset, and laid the emotional foundation for everything they would eventually become. Dirk Nowitzki's 2011 championship wasn't just major. It was sacred. It was the kind of ring that redefined legacies and healed a franchise's deepest wounds. For Dirk, it erased the stain of 2006. That finals collapse against Miami that branded him as soft, overrated, and not built for the moment. For 5 years, he carried that failure like a scar. But in 2011, he didn't run from it. He walked straight back into the fire and beat the same franchise, the same star, and on an even bigger stage. He also didn't do it with a super team. He did it with a group of veterans that have been doubted just as much as he had. Jason Kidd, Jason Terry, Sean Marion, and Tyson Chandler. No second star, no shortcuts, just trust, toughness, and execution. For Dallas, this was redemption. The Mavericks had been labeled pretenders for a decade, regular season powerhouses who folded under pressure. But in 2011, they flipped that narrative on its head. They swept the 2-time defending champion Lakers, they closed out OKC, and then they took down LeBron, Wade, and Bosh, all in their prime. That ring wasn't just a title. It was proof that loyalty still mattered, that perseverance still had a place in the league tilting towards instant gratification. It was the ultimate underdog moment. And for Dirk and Dallas, it meant everything.
We're the best team that was out there. That feels amazing.
If you want to hear more about Dirk's legendary career, you're in luck because our last video is exactly that. Now for the awards. Derrick Rose became the youngest MVP in history, capturing hearts nationwide. Blake Griffin won Rookie of the Year. Dwight Howard won Best Defensive Player. Lamar Odom earned 6-man honors. Kevin Love became Most Improved. Tom Thibodeau was Coach of the Year. And Shaquille O'Neal, the league's most dominant player ever, also retired at the end of this season.
I'm announcing my retirement from professional basketball. It is now time for me to begin my new life. For real? You want me to come up and apply for the New York Knicks general manager job? Okay, sure. I'll be up right after the press conference. Okay, sure. Thank you.
This year was a defining moment in NBA history. A clash between the league's evolving identity and the values that had long defined it, reshaping how stars controlled their careers and how fans viewed the idea of loyalty. The Heat became the league's most polarizing force, but it was Dirk Nowitzki and the battle-tested Mavs who delivered the season's lasting legacy. It was a reminder that experience, sacrifice, and resilience could still triumph over hype. In one unforgettable year, the league's future took shape, but its soul stayed intact. The league was evolving fast, but for this season, it was loyalty that stood the tallest. The NBA season was supposed to start in October, but the courts were quiet. Arenas were dark. The league was locked out. For 5 long months, owners and players bickered in boardrooms while fans waited in silence. The entire season hung by a thread. But finally, a deal was struck.
It seems as if the NBA lockout is about to come to an end.
After 15 hours of negotiating, the sides hammered out a deal, and at 3 a.m. Eastern time, Billy Hunter and David Stern came out to break the good news.
And on Christmas Day 2011, the lights flickered back on. Basketball was back, but it came with a price. What followed wasn't a typical season. It was a condensed, chaotic sprint. 66 games in 4 months. Fatigue became a permanent part of the game. Depth mattered, preparation vanished, and the cracks started to show early on. Kyrie Irving was selected first overall by the Cavaliers, a smooth, electrifying point guard. At 11, the Warriors found sharpshooter Klay Thompson. 4 picks later, the Spurs landed Kawhi Leonard. And at pick 30, the Bulls unearthed Jimmy Butler. Even Isaiah Thomas, taken dead last at 60, would defy all odds later in this video. Kicking off the 2011-2012 season in Miami, the air felt heavier. The sting of the previous year's collapse hadn't faded. LeBron James returned slimmer, sharper, and colder. Gone was the grinning showman from year one. In his place stood a man possessed by the weight of expectations. The Heat played like a team on a mission, not for redemption, but for silence.
Oh, he does it again. Throws it right up to the rim. James comes flying in from the right corner.
Out west, Oklahoma City was beginning to crackle with something dangerous. Kevin Durant's jumper looked effortless. Russell Westbrook's chaos was becoming controlled. James Harden was no longer just a spark. He was a weapon. The Thunder weren't building towards something. They were already here, and people were starting to feel it. In Chicago, Derrick Rose still danced. He moved like music, graceful and explosive in equal measure. The Bulls were deep, focused, and driven by a singular goal. Rose, the reigning MVP, bore the weight of an entire city's belief. They weren't just a threat, they were the blueprint. And then came February. The Knicks were broken. Injuries, dysfunction, disappointment. Madison Square Garden was a graveyard. But on February 4th, a kid named Jeremy Lin came in off the bench. Nobody noticed. Then he scored 25 points, made a couple headlines, then 28. SportsCenter had a segment of him, then 38 against the Lakers. Game winners, dimes, finesse. And just like that, a sleeping giant awoke. Lin's sanity wasn't just a moment, it was a miracle. It was the reminder that basketball still had room for its magic.
Lin's sanity continues here at Madison Square Garden.
Down south in San Antonio, Greg Popovich was ignoring the chaos. He rested stars, ignored outrage, and won games like nothing had changed. Tim Duncan aged like stone, unmoved, unbothered, and unbreakable. The Spurs weren't loud, but they were lethal. And the Lakers? Still Kobe's team. Still running on fumes and pride. No Phil Jackson, no finesse. Just Kobe, night after night, doing more than he should have to. Back in Boston, the window was closing. Paul Pierce still hit big shots. Kevin Garnett still screamed. Ray Allen still glided off screens. But the legs were heavier, the nights longer. The run they built their legacies on was nearing its end, and they knew it. The 2012 NBA All-Star Game MVP was Kevin Durant, who dropped 36 points down in Orlando. As the season barreled towards the playoffs, every game felt like it carried more weight. Fatigue crept into every locker room. Role players became saviors. Injuries redefined destinies. April arrived. The postseason began. The margin for error was gone. What followed wasn't just a bracket. It was a gauntlet. And what it revealed was quite simple. The league was changing, but the fight still mattered way more than the hype. Let's start with Chicago, the #1 seed. They opened their series against Philadelphia with confidence, but in the closing minutes of game 1, Derrick Rose went up for a routine hop step, then crumbled to the floor.
Rose came down bad on his left foot. See him holding onto his knee and down.
Derrick Rose's injury wasn't just devastating, it was senseless. With the Bulls up 12 and just over a minute left in game 1 against the 8-seeded 76ers, the win was all but sealed. There was no reason for Rose, Chicago's franchise savior, the reigning MVP, to still be on the floor. And yet, he was. Just like that, the Bulls' title's hopes had evaporated, and the brightest young star in the league was gone. It wasn't just a basketball loss. It felt like something sacred had been stolen from basketball fans around the world. But the playoffs marched on. The energy had shifted. Miami pushed past the Knicks, then faced the Indiana Pacers team that refused to back down. In game 4, with the Heat down 2-1, and Chris Bosh sidelined, LeBron delivered one of his most complete playoff performances ever. 40 points, 18 rebounds, 9 assists. He brought them back from the brink, then closed the door. Meanwhile, Boston's veteran core summoned every ounce of its old magic. They outlasted Atlanta, they broke down Philadelphia in a brutal 7-game slugfest. The Big Three was refusing to grow old. They weren't dominant, but they were dangerous. The Eastern Conference Finals brought it all together. Celtics versus Heat. Old blood versus new order. Boston took a 3-2 lead after game 5, and Miami looked stunned. The momentum had flipped. The critics were sharpening their knives. And then came game 6. LeBron James walked into TD Garden with a vacant stare. No smile, no emotion, just a mission. He delivered 45 points, 15 rebounds, and 5 assists in one of the coldest, most locked-in performances the league has ever seen. That night wasn't just a game, it was a reckoning. Every doubt, every headline, every whisper, LeBron burned them all.
I just go out and just do what I've been taught, and that's to play at a high level and have fun with it. And at the end of the day, I won't regret anything. If I know I played hard and I gave it my all, I won't regret anything, no matter the outcome. And, that's where I've been this whole season.
The Heat took Game 7, and Boston's window had finally slammed shut. Let's go out west. Oklahoma City was growing up fast. After dispatching Dallas and dismantling the Lakers, they stared down the Spurs. San Antonio had won 20 straight and went up 2-0 in the series, but the Thunder stormed back. Get it? Sorry. Durant closed Game 6 with poise beyond his years, dropping 34 points to send OKC to their first ever finals. The stage was set. Thunder versus Heat. The future versus the moment. Game 1 went to Oklahoma City. Durant was flawless, but that was the last game they'd win. LeBron didn't put up gaudy numbers every night. He didn't need to. Instead, he controlled the pace. He dictated the tone. He played with patience, precision, and purpose. In Game 5, Mike Miller hit 7 threes on one good leg. Shane Battier, Mario Chalmers, and even Norris Cole had their moments. The Heat played with unity, with clarity. When the final buzzer sounded, confetti rained in Miami. LeBron James, after 9 seasons, 2 MVPs, and 1 unforgettable collapse, was finally a champion. He held the trophy with both hands, then looked up and exhaled. For LeBron James, that 2012 championship wasn't just a ring. It was a release. After years of being labeled a choker, after the decision, after the finals collapse against Dallas, he had heard every insult, every doubt, every question about whether he had it.
I'm an NBA champion. Nobody can ever take that away from me.
This title was his answer. It wasn't about dominance. It wasn't about control. LeBron had learned how to win, not just statistically, but emotionally. He didn't run from the moment. He dictated it. That trophy was proof that he could carry the weight of expectation and still rise. For the Miami Heat, it was validation. The entire super team experiment, the fireworks and promises, had finally delivered. Pat Riley's gamble paid off. Eric Spoelstra proved that he belonged as a head coach. Wade ceded control, Bosh sacrificed stats, the role players rose. The Heat were no longer just villains. They were champions.
It's about damn time. It's about damn time.
Now, for the Thunder, this was the beginning of the end. Durant, Westbrook, and Harden were still kids, still smiling, still believing there would be more chances. But behind the scenes, decisions were looming. And for the season's awards, LeBron James won MVP, Kyrie Irving won Rookie of the Year, Tyson Chandler got Defensive Player, James Harden won Sixth Man, Most Improved went to Ryan Anderson, and Coach of the Year was to Greg Popovich. This season was a storm of urgency, emotion, and transformation. Compressed by a lockout and fueled by desperation, it delivered some of the most unforgettable moments in modern NBA history. Linsanity's magic, Rose's heartbreaking fall, LeBron's redemption, and the rise of a Thunder team that felt like the future. It was the season where legacy shifted, windows closed, and the game itself began to evolve. Through chaos and pressure, the league crowned a new king. And in doing so, reminded the world that greatness isn't given. It's earned.
World champ. Read my face.
The 2012-2013 season began without a lockout, but the intensity didn't ease up. The league was in full transition. Social media was no longer just a slideshow. It was now the stage. Twitter had become the pulse of the NBA, shaping narratives, fueling rivalries, and turning every big moment into a viral sensation within seconds. The sport wasn't just evolving on the court, it was mutating in real time, in front of millions of screens. Draft night brought rookies like Damian Lillard and Anthony Davis. They both had something to prove and a future to claim. Now, onto the hardwood. The Miami Heat had tasted blood. LeBron James had shed the burden of doubt with his first ring, and now he played like a man unburdened. The hesitation was gone. The fear of failure? Erased. The Heat ripped through the league with terrifying confidence. LeBron was playing the best basketball of his life. Dominant, efficient, and ruthless. His foot was on the gas from day one. Miami's biggest challenger out east came from a place no one expected, New York. The Knicks, led by rejuvenated Carmelo Anthony, looked like a team finally ready to live up to the hype. J.R. Smith found rhythm as a spark plug scorer, and Jason Kidd's veteran leadership kept the wheels from falling off. Madison Square Garden roared back to life. For the first time in a decade, the Knicks mattered again. Now, in Boston, something was breaking. Ray Allen was gone, having joined the rival Heat in a move that stung worse than any loss. Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce were still warriors, still barking and battling, but the foundation was cracked. Age, injuries, and father time caught up. Everyone could feel it. The Bulls had Derrick Rose sidelined for the entire year, and the absence was deafening. Chicago still fought though, but their heart wasn't whole. How about we take a trip down to Brooklyn? The New Jersey Nets were no more. They moved, rebranded, and reloaded with Darren Williams, Joe Johnson, and Brooke Lopez. Jay-Z was courtside. Not me, the rapper. I'm just a guy that thinks if you're still watching, you should drop a like and subscribe. Okay, I'm sorry. The black and white jerseys were sleek, but something felt off. The hype was real, but the chemistry wasn't. Out west, the Thunder was still surging. Durant was unstoppable, Westbrook relentless, Harden he was gone. In a shocking preseason trade, Oklahoma City dealt James Harden to Houston for what amounted to cap relief and depth. The move stunned the league. Just months removed from a finals appearance, the Thunder had split their young core before it could truly peak. And in Houston, Harden exploded. Freed from the six-man role, he became a superstar overnight.
A tomahawk slam by James Harden.
His game was crafty, efficient, and impossible to guard. He turned the Rockets into a playoff team and himself into the face of a franchise. San Antonio, meanwhile, was quietly perfecting the art of sustainability. Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker weren't just holding on, they were thriving. Kawhi Leonard, now in his second year, was starting to bloom. The Spurs didn't make noise, they made statements. Then there were the Lakers. In what looked like a dream on paper, LA formed a super team. Kobe Bryant, Dwight Howard, Steve Nash, and Pau Gasol. On media day, it felt like a coronation. But from the start, something was wrong. Nash got hurt, Dwight didn't mesh, the defense fell apart, and Kobe, he did everything. Too much. He willed that team forward with one last vintage season.
Issues with the drive. Kobe drives. Kobe all the way. Dunks it home. Kobe Bryant, sensational.
Pushing his body past the brink. And in April, it snapped. A torn Achilles. He still walked to the free throw line and drained both shots, but the Lakers' dream was officially over. Chris Paul claimed All-Star Game MVP, but the spotlight was focused elsewhere. This was LeBron's league now. He and the Heat had rattled off 27 straight wins, the second longest streak in NBA history. It wasn't just winning, it was dominance without apology. LeBron was named MVP again, his 4th overall. Miami looked inevitable, but nothing in the NBA is ever promised. The playoffs began with heartbreak. The Lakers were swept. The Thunder lost Westbrook to injury, and without him, Durant couldn't carry them alone. The Knicks ran into Indiana's brick wall of a defense. Memphis stunned everyone by knocking out the Clippers. And Chicago, running on fumes, took a game off Miami, but not much more.
Chalmers, great save. Across the Wade. Wade, layup, and got it up and in. Miami will advance to the Eastern Conference Finals.
By the time the finals arrived, it was Miami versus San Antonio. What followed was one of the greatest NBA finals of all time. 7 games, high drama, and brilliant execution. Game 6, the ropes were out, the trophy was in the tunnel. And then, you remember.
James catches, puts up a 3. Won't go. Rebound Bosh. Back out to Allen. His three-pointer. Bang! Tie game with 5 seconds remaining.
The Spurs had to watch that trophy being pushed out of their locker room after collapsing in overtime. And then came Game 7. LeBron's legacy hanging in the balance. LeBron dropped 37 points. Shane Battier hit 6 threes. The Heat survived, and the Spurs collapsed just inches short of glory.
The 2013 NBA championship resides once again in Miami.
For the Spurs, this ending was cruel. Everything they had built, years of sacrifice, discipline, and trust, had led to this moment. They had played nearly flawless basketball, outsmarted their opponents, and come within inches of glory. But the game can be merciless. What this season gave them wasn't closure, it was a scar. One that would stay with them, shape them, and quietly set the stage for something greater. This ring meant everything to Miami's core because it almost didn't happen. For LeBron, it was survival. Validation all over again. The 2013 finals pushed him to the brink mentally and physically. After Ray Allen's miracle shot in Game 6, LeBron knew there was no more lifelines. In Game 7, he had to be legendary, and he was.
To the end, man.
To the last second.
To the last second.
To the last man.
To the last man.
This second title silenced any lingering doubt. It wasn't just great anymore. He was historic. This ring proved that he could win under maximum pressure against the dynasty with everything on the line. For Wade, it was personal. His body was failing him. His knees were breaking, but he still delivered big moments, especially in games 4 and 7. This wasn't 2006 Wade carrying the team. This was the evolution of a star learning to sacrifice and still show up when it mattered most. It was a reminder that he was still elite, still clutch, still a pillar of the Heat's success.
We had to give everything we had, and we did it. I ain't got nothing left.
For Bosh, it was redemption. He was ridiculed more than anyone in the Big Three. Called soft, laughed at in memes, and used as a scapegoat, but when the series hung in the balance, he secured the offensive rebound that saved their season, then blocked Danny Green's shot in overtime. This title validated his role, not just as a third option, but as a champion. For the Heat, it was the peak of their identity. They weren't just a super team anymore. They were a brotherhood forged through adversity. Back-to-back titles solidified themselves as one of the great teams of the modern era, and it gave their critics nowhere left to run. The Heat were officially a dynasty. The awards of this season told the story. LeBron won his 4th MVP, Damian Lillard earned Rookie of the Year, Marc Gasol took Defensive Player of the Year, J.R. Smith won 6-Man, Most Improved to Paul George, and Coach of the Year went to George Karl after leading Denver to 57 wins. Legends like Rasheed Wallace, Jason Kidd, and Grant Hill finally stepped away. The old guard was leaving. The future was in motion. This season was a storm. LeBron stood at the height of his powers. The Spurs came within seconds of rewriting history, and a new generation began to rise with fury. The difference between immortality and devastation was a single rebound and a single shot. This wasn't just basketball. It was a war for greatness.
Everybody was just hugging, telling everybody we love them, man. And, you know, that's what it's about.
Back to back, fellas.
The summer of 2013 didn't bring fireworks, no league-altering trades or shocking signings, but it did usher in a growing sense of urgency. LeBron James and the Miami Heat were 2-time champions now, aiming for a 3rd straight. The league hadn't seen a three-peat since Kobe and Shaq. The air around Miami felt tense, almost suffocating. Every arena they walked into, they were hunted. Brooklyn went all in, trading for Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce in a blockbuster move meant to bring instant credibility. The Celtics had to let go of their past. The Nets were gambling their future. It was an experiment wrapped in risk, one that looked better on paper than on the hardwood. The 2013 NBA draft gave us fresh faces with futures yet to be defined. Anthony Bennett was taken first overall by the Cavs, an immediate shock that would soon spiral into a cautionary tale. But lower in the draft, Giannis Antetokounmpo, an unknown prospect from Greece, was selected at 15 by Milwaukee. Nobody knew it then, but a dynasty seed had just been planted. The regular season opened with familiar faces holding court, but something felt different. Faster, more precise. Teams weren't just playing, they were adapting. The three-point shot was no longer just a weapon, it was a way of life. Coaches built systems around spacing, tempo, and versatility. The league was evolving. The Spurs, still carrying the heartbreak of the previous season, didn't speak about revenge. They just played. Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and Kawhi Leonard, who was finally breaking out of his shell. Every night they took the floor, they played like a team trying to erase a memory.
Duncan, the Manu, inside, Diaz, pick up your laundry, and then the line!
Over in the Bay Area, a revolution was quietly forming. Steph Curry was beginning to stretch the boundaries of logic. His range defied convention. His confidence made it deadly. With Klay Thompson by his side, Golden State wasn't a juggernaut yet, but they were close. Kevin Durant was also in the middle of a masterpiece. While Russell Westbrook dealt with knee injuries, Durant carried OKC with quiet fury. Every night, he made the game look effortless. And every night, the MVP buzz got louder. All-Star Weekend landed in New Orleans. Stars collided, young names popped, legends soaked in the moment. Kyrie Irving walked away with All-Star MVP. The crowd, both in the arena and online, made it very clear. The NBA was no longer just a league. It was a living conversation, 24/7. As spring arrived, so did the grind. Miami's legs looked heavier. Dwayne Wade missed games for rest. LeBron carried more weight. The cracks were showing. Meanwhile, Indiana, once a rising power, began to crumble under internal tension and inconsistent play. What started as a potential top seed turned into a slow unraveling. The playoffs arrived with tension baked into every series. The first round alone was chaos. 5 different series went to 7 games, including an unforgettable clash between Dallas and San Antonio, where Vince Carter hit a buzzer beater in Game 3 that reminded fans why he was still one of the coldest to ever do it. Out west, Portland stunned Houston in Game 6 when Damian Lillard, with the ball and the clock melting down.
It's Lillard. He got the shot off. Lillard, good! And the Blazers win the series for the first time in 14 years!
It wasn't just a win. It was a moment. A star was born. And then came the Clippers-Warriors series, a slugfest drenched in controversy. The Donald Sterling scandal broke mid-series, exposing one of the darkest stains in the league's history. The Clippers played with outrage and resolve, winning in 7 games. It wasn't just about basketball. It was about identity and integrity. By the conference finals, old narratives returned. Miami, battered but still lethal, marched back to the finals.
Including this, blowing in the ear of LeBron James. And James' reaction, He can't believe it.
LeBron was brilliant. Bosh was clutch. Wade resilient. They weren't dominant, but they were determined. In the West, the Spurs dismantled the Thunder with a brand of basketball that felt like poetry. Precision screens, relentless ball movement. It was everything the game could be when played at the highest level. And when the finals arrived, it was a rematch. Miami versus San Antonio. But don't get it twisted, this wasn't revenge. This was an execution. The Spurs played with rage. Kawhi Leonard, just 22 years old, exploded into a two-way force.
Leonard for three. First lead of the game for the Spurs.
Earning finals MVP, fully stepping into the light. Game after game, San Antonio carved Miami apart. The ball never stopped moving. The open man was always found. Miami just couldn't keep up. They weren't just beaten, they were dismantled. When it ended in 5 games, it didn't feel like a shock. It felt inevitable. For the Miami Heat, the 2014 finals loss was more than just a defeat. It was the unraveling of a dynasty. After 4 straight finals appearances and 2 championships, the cracks that had been quietly forming became impossible to ignore. LeBron James, despite delivering strong performances, cramping in game 1 and visibly frustrated by the relentless precision of the Spurs, Dwayne Wade's knees betrayed him, and Chris Bosh faded into the background. This wasn't a series they lost in heroic fashion. It was a dismantling. San Antonio's ball movement, spacing, and unselfishness exposed the limitations of Miami's top-heavy roster. The aura of invincibility vanished. The Big Three era that once seemed unstoppable now felt fragile. And by the end of that summer, it was over. These finals didn't just end a season, it ended an era. Now, for Tim Duncan, the 2014 championship wasn't about numbers or accolades. It was about closure. He had felt the sting of the 2013 loss deeper than most, watching Ray Allen's shot rip away a ring he could already taste. Many thought that was his final shot at glory, but Duncan, ever the quiet force, returned not with revenge, but with resolve in his play. Winning in 2014 didn't just avenge the past, it reaffirmed his entire legacy. It was proof that humility, sacrifice, and consistency could still win in a league tilting towards flash. And for the Spurs, it was basketball's version of a symphony. They didn't just defeat Miami, they overwhelmed them with one of the most beautiful and unselfish team performances the game has ever seen. After years of being overlooked in favor of lauding narratives, they had the last word. It was a coronation for Kawhi Leonard, a vindication for Popovich, and a final masterpiece for Duncan, Parker, and Ginobili.
7 years, man. We're back. It's been a while, too. We're back. Welcome back. Not bad for a bunch of old guys.
The seasonal awards were given to Kevin Durant, who won MVP. Michael Carter-Williams was Rookie of the Year. Joakim Noah took Defensive Player. Jamal Crawford claimed Sixth Man. Goran Dragic Most Improved. And Greg Popovich won Coach of the Year. This season reminded the league what greatness really looked like. In a time when Flash was starting to overshow fundamentals, the Spurs brought the spotlight back to substance. Their run wasn't just about revenge, it was a blueprint. Duncan, ageless and steady, anchored one of the most selfless teams the league has ever seen, showing that brilliance doesn't need a spotlight to shine. Around them, stars rose and dynasties wavered. The NBA was evolving, but through it all, San Antonio's run stood as a reminder, in a league chasing the future, there's still power in mastering the present.
Spurs have captured their 5th NBA championship.
Thanks for pushing me. Oh my God. Oh my God. That's what it's a crazy feeling. That's what it's about, baby, right? Yes. You earned it. You earned it.
The 2014-15 NBA season began with uncertainty and ended with transformation. The Spurs had just reminded the league that fundamentals still mattered. Now, the new wave was ready to seize the floor. Pace and space were no longer trends, they were the gospel. Social media buzzed louder than ever. Narratives built and crumbled overnight. Stars weren't just athletes anymore. They were brands, movements, content machines. The game was growing faster, wider, and more connected than ever before. But not everything changed. Tim Duncan returned once more, steady as a metronome. Kobe Bryant returned from his Achilles tear after just 8 months of recovery. And in Cleveland, a familiar name made headlines.
LeBron James picks Cleveland. The decision made, the explanation simple enough. There it is. James' Instagram post, I'm coming home.
LeBron James was going home. His decision shook the league. After 4 years, 4 finals, and 2 championships in Miami, LeBron returned to the Cavaliers, not just to chase another ring, but to deliver one to a city starving for salvation. He was older now, seasoned. This time, he wouldn't be alone. The Cavaliers traded for Kevin Love and paired him with Kyrie Irving, forming a new Big Three and launching Cleveland straight into title contention. Meanwhile, in Chicago, Derrick Rose returned again, hoping to reclaim his place among the elite. In Oklahoma City, injuries to Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook left the Thunder limping from the start. And in Los Angeles, Kobe pushed through one more year of pain. But the league's center of gravity had shifted west to a team that nobody expected. The Golden State Warriors weren't just good, they were different. With rookie head coach Steve Kerr unleashing a system built on movement, spacing, and chaos, they exploded out of the gate. Steph Curry transcended. His handle, his vision, his limitless range. It felt like a glitch in reality. Alongside Klay Thompson's perimeter brilliance, Draymond Green's versatility, and a deep bench led by Andre Iguodala, the Warriors redefined how the game could be played. The Splash Brothers had arrived. By All-Star Weekend in New York, the shift was undeniable. Curry dazzled in the three-point contest. Russell Westbrook earned All-Star Game MVP honors with an electrifying 41-point explosion. But beneath the spectacle, a battle was forming between the new order and the old. In Atlanta, the Hawks stunned the East by winning 60 games with no superstar, just elite ball movement, discipline, and team first play. In San Antonio, the Spurs were banged up but never out. In Houston, James Harden was emerged as an MVP caliber force. And in Los Angeles, the Clippers remained a dangerous threat. The regular season concluded with Steph Curry winning his first ever MVP, but questions lingered. Could his brilliance translate to the postseason grind? Were the Warriors for real or just a flash in the pan? Well, the playoffs, they answered everything. Cleveland, despite injuries to Kevin Love and a hobbled Kyrie Irving, rode LeBron's all-time brilliance through the East. He was spectacular. Atlanta's dream season ended in a conference finals sweep, as they had no answer for King James. Out west, the Warriors easily swept Anthony Davis and the Pelicans. Then came their first real challenge, the grit and grind Memphis Grizzlies. They fell behind 2-1, but Curry found his rhythm and the Warriors never looked back. They dispatched Memphis and then survived a chippy series against Houston, finally reaching the finals for the first time in 40 years. And then came the showdown. LeBron versus Golden State. It was billed as experience versus innovation, brute force against finesse. And for a moment, it looked like LeBron might pull off the impossible. With Kevin Love out and Kyrie injured in Game 1, he carried Cleveland to a 2-1 series lead almost entirely on his own.
James again, this time sets for three. Got it!
He averaged 36 points per game in the finals. But then, the Warriors made a huge change.
Andre Iguodala will start for the first time this season.
Andre Iguodala entered the starting lineup. The pace quickened, the floor opened up, and everything shifted. The Warriors rattled off 3 straight wins, sealing the series in 6. Curry was brilliant, but it was Iguodala, tasked with guarding LeBron and anchoring the shift, who won Finals MVP. I just have to repeat this. LeBron averaged 36. From an unbiased fan, Curry deserved that award. The Warriors were champions. Not with power or post play, but with shooting, spacing, and speed. The league would never be the same. For the Cavaliers, the 2015 finals loss was both heartbreaking and galvanizing. It stripped them bare. No Love, no Kyrie, and still, they stood just 2 wins away from everything. What it proved wasn't weakness, it was potential. They had the right core, they had the best player in the world, and now they had scars, painful ones. Cleveland had waited decades for a title. Now they could see it, feel it, almost touch it. This loss didn't end their story. Instead, it sharpened their purpose. For the Warriors, this win was a rebirth, a validation that their unorthodox style built on speed, spacing, and unselfishness wasn't just entertaining, it was unstoppable. After decades of irrelevance, Golden State rose from the shadows to set a new standard. They didn't just win a championship, they changed the game forever. And for Steph Curry, it was the moment he became more than just a fan favorite. He was now a champion, an MVP, and the face of a revolution. His shooting had already turned heads. Now, it had tilted the league's entire axis. This wasn't just the start of a dynasty, it was the arrival of a new blueprint, and Steph was holding the pen. Andrew Wiggins took Rookie of the Year. Kawhi Leonard earned Defensive Player of the Year. Lou Williams won Sixth Man. Jimmy Butler was Most Improved. And Mike Budenholzer, after leading Atlanta to 60 wins, was named Coach of the Year. This season marked the start of something entirely new. LeBron's return to Cleveland reignited a franchise and a fan base, while Golden State shattered every expectation with a style the league had never seen. Ball movement beat brute force. Range replaced size. This wasn't a passing of the torch. It was a redesign of the entire sport. And when it was over, the Warriors weren't just champions. They were pioneers.
Fight through injuries for this. It looks so much better in person, too.
The The 2015-16 season didn't just follow that momentum, it detonated it. The league entered the year with eyes locked on the defending champions. The Golden State Warriors, already viewed as innovators, began the season like something out of a dream. Win after win, night after night, they tore through opponents with unprecedented flair and focus, dazzling fans with deep threes, no-look passes, and a level of dominance the league hadn't seen from a point guard in decades.
You have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
Meanwhile, out in Cleveland, the Cavaliers quietly retooled behind the scenes. Midway through the season, they fired David Blatt and handed the reins to Tyronn Lue, a move aimed at building chemistry, clarity, and giving LeBron the structure he needed to lead without friction. The pressure was immense. Nothing short of a championship would be enough. Out west, San Antonio quietly assembled one of the most efficient machines in basketball. Behind Kawhi Leonard's quiet brilliance and the steady presence of LaMarcus Aldridge, they looked every bit like a threat to Golden State. Oklahoma City returned to full strength too. Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook were on a mission. Their chemistry and explosiveness returning after years derailed by injury.
A tie game. Durant for three for the win. He's got it! He's got it! He's got it! A half a second remaining, and Durant has done it again!
And while contenders jolted for position, a farewell tour took center stage. Kobe Bryant, one of the game's last great links to the 2000s, announced that this season would be his last. Each city he visited offered tributes. Each game became a curtain call. In his final appearance, he delivered a masterpiece. 60 points in a packed Staples Center. A final reminder of who Kobe Bryant was.
What can I say? Mamba out.
Toronto also emerged as a legitimate contender in the East, riding the steady backcourt of DeRozan and Lowry. The Boston Celtics, still rebuilding, showed real signs of life under Brad Stevens. Miami, led by Wade and a resurgent supporting cast, remained somewhat of a threat. All-Star Weekend landed in Toronto, a historic first for Canada. Kobe's final appearance dominated headlines, while Zach LaVine and Aaron Gordon treated fans to the greatest dunk contest since Vince Carter. I would personally argue that it was the greatest dunk contest of all time. The MVP went to Russell Westbrook, his second straight, as his relentless energy lit up the stage. As the regular season neared its end, the Warriors were chasing something unthinkable, breaking the 1996 Bulls 72-win record. With every win, the pressure mounted. Every game became a spectacle. And on the final night,
No longer chasing history. The Golden State Warriors now stand alone with 73 wins, taking their place in the annals of the NBA.
73 wins, a record that once seemed untouchable now belonged to Golden State. To top it all off, Steph Curry was named the first ever unanimous MVP in league history, a fitting honor for a season that defied all logic. The playoffs opened with drama, injuries, and redemption arcs. The Warriors faced a brief scare as Curry battled the knee injury early in the postseason, but they powered through, advancing round by round, all while questions lingered about his health. In the Western Conference Finals, the Thunder surged to a 3-1 lead over Golden State. Durant and Westbrook looked absolutely unstoppable. But then, Klay Thompson exploded for 41 points in Game 6. One of the greatest shooting performances in playoff history. The Warriors clawed back and advanced to the finals in 7 games. In the East, Cleveland dominated. LeBron was locked in, Kyrie electric, and the team deeper and more cohesive than the year prior. They stormed into the finals with authority, sweeping Detroit, then Atlanta, and handling Toronto in 6. Hey, shout out to KCP for this fast break dunk though. That dunk made me think that we were back in it. Oh boy, was I off. And then came the rematch, Golden State versus Cleveland. The Warriors jumped ahead 3-1, one win away. The best regular season team ever was on the verge of adding the final jewel. Then everything changed in Game 5.
Nah, what did you say Klay said?
Klay said, I guess he just got his feelings hurt.
Oh, my goodness.
Draymond Green was suspended after a flagrant foul in the previous game. With him out, LeBron and Kyrie each dropped 41 points on the Warriors' home floor.
Thompson right with him. Irving, bank shot is good.
It was the first time in finals history that 2 teammates had scored 40 or more in the same game. Suddenly, the door cracked open. Game 6 was a statement. LeBron was completely dialed in, dominating both ends of the floor. He dropped another 41 and added highlight reel blocks, backdoor dimes, and utter domination. The Cavaliers had forced a Game 7, and the pressure shifted entirely.
I want to win for sure. That's my ultimate goal. But I know I'm going to give everything, and then we'll see what happens. It's going to be a fun one.
And then came the finale. Game 7 of the 2016 finals wasn't just the best game of the year. It was one of the most intense, dramatic, and emotionally draining basketball games ever played. Every possession felt like it was carved out of stone. The fourth quarter was a stalemate, with both teams grinding and neither willing to break. Then, with less than 2 minutes left, Andre Iguodala took off on a fast break. It looked like the go-ahead layup.
Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. LeBron James with the rejection.
This was the defining block of his career, maybe even of the NBA itself.
Huge defensive play by the four-time MVP.
A few plays later, Kyrie found himself one-on-one with Steph Curry. He danced, stepped back, and buried a cold-blooded three over the league's unanimous MVP. That shot became the dagger, the one that sealed it. This wasn't just a comeback, it was the comeback. No team had ever come back from a 3-1 deficit in the NBA Finals before. LeBron delivered on the promise he made when he returned to Cleveland. He gave the city a title. He brought redemption to a franchise that had suffered for decades. And he did it by taking down the most dominant regular season team in NBA history. For Cleveland, this wasn't just a title, it was salvation. A city haunted by decades of sporting misery finally had its miracle.
See my name, you know where I'm from. That's a big thing for me and for everybody that's in this city.
And for LeBron, it wasn't just about basketball anymore. It was about identity, redemption, and legacy. He had carried the weight of a region on his shoulders since he was a teenager. And in that moment, on the road, against history, he didn't just deliver a ring. He delivered hope. It was the defining moment of his career. Not his most dominant, but his most meaningful. The kid from Akron had come home and rewritten the story. Not just for himself, but for an entire generation.
Cleveland! This is for you!
This was also the moment when Kyrie Irving became a finals legend. His shot was not just a game winner. It was a legacy sealer. Kevin Love, often criticized for shrinking in big moments, played crucial late game defense on Curry to help close it out. For the Warriors, the loss was devastating. Their historic season ended with nothing. Curry was hounded in the final 3 games. Clay went cold in the biggest moments. And Draymond, despite an incredible Game 7 performance, couldn't erase the damage from his suspension. This series had it all. Greatness, collapse, redemption, heartbreak. It elevated LeBron James into a different conversation.
Against all odds, I don't know why we want to take the hardest road. I don't know why the man above gives me the hardest road, but it's nothing the man above don't put you in situations that you can't handle.
He didn't just win a ring. He did it on the road in a Game 7 against a record-breaking team while leading both squads in points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. Whew. Now for the awards. Karl Anthony Towns won Rookie of the Year. Kawhi Leonard repeated as Defensive Player of the Year. Jamal Crawford claimed Sixth Man. CJ McCollum took Most Improved. And Steve Kerr earned Coach of the Year. The 2016 Finals were the perfect storm. You had the greatest regular season team in league history. You had the best player of his generation chasing a promise. You had iconic performances, dramatic swings, historic stakes, and a finish that felt scripted by the basketball gods themselves.
Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The drought is over. The curse destroyed. 52 years of torment and anguish has been washed away.
After a season that gave us one of the greatest finals in NBA history, the league, never content with stillness, shifted again. And this time, the aftershocks were ginormous. On July 4th, fireworks exploded off the court. Kevin Durant, the face of the Oklahoma City Thunder, left behind the only franchise he had ever known and joined the very team that had just eliminated him. The 73-9 juggernaut, the same squad he nearly defeated.
Well, I'm viewing it as the weakest move I've ever seen from a superstar. Plain and simple. That's just how I look at it.
It wasn't just a move. It was a seismic shift that shattered fan loyalty, changed the league's balance of power, and forever altered how Durant would be perceived. What was once admiration for his humble, hard-working persona quickly turned into resentment. Durant, once seen as the NBA's golden boy, was now labeled a snake for joining a super team. His decision erased the positive image he worked so hard to build in OKC, and he went from being a fan favorite to one of the most polarizing figures in basketball. Imagine Michael Jordan leaving the Bulls to join the bad boy Pistons. Durant did something that nobody has ever done. And you guys know he's still being ridiculed for that move to this day. Elsewhere, Tim Duncan quietly retired, walking away without fanfare, ending one of the most graceful and dominant careers the league had ever seen. His departure marked the true end of an era. The Spurs' silent giant was gone, leaving behind 5 rings, 2 MVPs, and a legacy built on humility and perfection. Kobe Bryant's absence was felt as the Lakers continued to rebuild, and Dwayne Wade shocked the basketball world by signing with his hometown Bulls, leaving Miami after 13 years. Pat Riley wouldn't pay him, so he was basically forced out of the city that once turned him into a man. The NBA draft brought in fresh blood, headlined by Ben Simmons, the top pick selected by the 76ers, and Brandon Ingram going to the Lakers. It also marked the arrival of Pascal Siakam, Jaylen Brown, and Malcolm Brogdon, the latter of whom would go on to become Rookie of the Year. The infusion of youth underscored how rapidly the league was changing. Social media had now become fully intertwined with the NBA's identity. Every tweet, every subtweet, every Instagram caption carried weight. The game wasn't just being played on the hardwood anymore. As the regular season began, the Warriors wasted no time. Chemistry was instant. Curry adjusted, Durant integrated, and Golden State moved like clockwork. They weren't just beating teams, they were demoralizing them. Durant's scoring efficiency was off the charts, and Curry, even in a less ball-dominant role, remained deadly. Klay Thompson and Draymond Green also flourished with the added space and attention. The narrative of super team dominance wasn't hypothetical anymore. It was real.
Zaza winning that tip. Curry on the go route. Back to Durant. What a play!
In Houston, James Harden thrived under new head coach Mike D'Antoni, who placed the ball squarely in his hands and let him orchestrate everything. The result was staggering. Harden led the league in assists and posted monster triple-doubles regularly. Russell Westbrook, meanwhile, was on a personal vendetta. With Durant gone, he became the heart of the Thunder, unleashing a fury few had ever seen. Night after night, he dominated, stacking triple-doubles at a historic pace. And by the season's end, he had done the impossible. He averaged a triple-double over an entire season, something only Oscar Robertson had ever done before.
Adams gives it back to Rush. Deep shot! What a perfect ending to a historic day!
Now, over in Boston, Isaiah Thomas was nothing short of extraordinary. At just 5'9", he delivered one of the most electrifying individual seasons in recent memory, a relentless force whose heart seemed bigger than his frame. He led the Boston Celtics to a top seed in the East, weaving through defenses and hitting clutch shots with a fearless precision. Off the court, he bore unimaginable grief.
Tragic news affecting Boston Celtics star Isaiah Thomas. His sister was killed in a one-car accident early Saturday morning, according to Washington State Police.
The tragic loss of his sister just before the playoffs, yet he kept going. His 53-point performance on what would have been her birthday wasn't just a game. It was a moment of raw human emotion that turned him from an underdog into a legend.
Isaiah, where is this coming from, man? Where is this coming from?
It's my sister. It's her birthday today. Happy birthday. She would have been 23 today, so everything I do is for her, and she's watching over me, so that's all her.
All-Star Weekend in New Orleans brought the spectacle fans expected. Anthony Davis, playing in front of his home crowd, erupted for a record 52 points and won MVP honors. The event was a celebration of the NBA's brightest stars, but also a showcase of how lopsided the power structure had become. As the postseason began, the Cavaliers looked rejuvenated. LeBron played like a man possessed, charging through the East with a 12-1 record. They swept Indiana and Toronto, then weathered a tougher challenge from Boston in the conference finals. But even with the Celtics' push, Cleveland reaffirmed its dominance. The East still belonged to them. The Warriors, meanwhile, were flawless. Literally. They entered the finals with a perfect 12-0 postseason record, having dismantled Portland, Utah, and San Antonio with terrifying ease.
Take a look at Kevin Durant. The first time blocks it, slaps it again.
The anticipated trilogy, Warriors vs. Cavaliers, was set. This time, however, it wasn't a back-and-forth battle. Durant was the difference. He scored with ease, defended with pride, and when it mattered most, delivered the dagger. Silencing the crowd and cementing the series. Golden State reclaimed the throne in 5 games. Their dominance was undeniable. Their redemption, complete. For LeBron, it was a reminder of the burden he constantly bore. He averaged a triple-double in the finals, something no one had ever done before. It was historic, yet not enough. For Kyrie Irving, who dazzled again with his clutch shot-making and fearless drives, it felt like the start of something prematurely ending. And for the Cavaliers, it was more than just a loss. It was the sobering realization that their margin for error against this Golden State juggernaut had vanished. Even greatness, when outgunned, can fall short. Steph Curry, while brilliant, played willingly in Durant's shadow. And for Durant, the championship wasn't just validation, it was liberation. Criticized, doubted, and questioned at every turn, he now had his ring. But outside of Oakland, few celebrated. It felt hollow to many. A shortcut taken by a star who joined the very team that had broken him. He won Finals MVP, silenced his critics statistically, but the admiration didn't follow. It was the crown he had chased, but for some, it never quite looked right on his head. The individual honors rolled in. Russell Westbrook was crowned MVP for his historic triple-double season. Malcolm Brogdon claimed his Rookie of the Year. Draymond Green locked up Defensive Player of the Year. Eric Gordon brought home six-man honors. Giannis Antetokounmpo's rise was rewarded with Most Improved. And Mike D'Antoni's fast-paced brilliance earned him Coach of the Year. This season didn't just introduce a new powerhouse. It redefined what supremacy looked like on a basketball court. The Warriors didn't chase greatness. They cornered it, dominated it, and held it hostage. The sheer inevitability of their success reshaped the emotional fabric of the league. Fans didn't just expect wins, they braced for them. And in doing so, the NBA entered a new age, one where the line between competition and inevitability blurred, and the echoes of parity grew quieter with every blowout. For better or worse, the league had crossed a threshold it couldn't uncross. The 2017-18 NBA season began with not excitement, but with unrest. Many fans were left wondering if the league had lost its balance. The conversation wasn't about who would win the title, it was about how quickly they would do it. And that made the start of the season feel different. But the NBA always finds a way to surprise. The summer kicked off with chaos. Chris Paul, the floor general of the Clippers, forced a move to Houston to team up with James Harden. Kyrie Irving shocked the league by demanding a trade out of Cleveland, away from LeBron James, and landed in Boston. Paul George was traded to Oklahoma City to join forces with Russell Westbrook, and just weeks later, Carmelo Anthony joined them. Suddenly, a new trio was born in the West. Jimmy Butler found himself in Minnesota, hoping to drag a young core towards contention. Meanwhile, the Lakers drafted Lonzo Ball, and his father LeVar made sure everyone was watching. But the biggest headline of the offseason was the crumbling of the Cavaliers. Isaiah Thomas came in hurt, and though Dwayne Wade briefly reunited with LeBron, it wasn't long before even that dissolved. The draft class injected new energy into the league. Jason Tatum looked polished from day one in Boston. Donovan Mitchell became a surprise star in Utah. De'Aaron Fox brought speed and swagger to Sacramento. And Kyle Kuzma, overshadowing the higher-picked Lonzo, quickly made his mark in LA. The league's youth movement was rising. But as the season tipped off, it didn't take long for the tone to shift. Opening night, Boston's hopes were shattered. Gordon Hayward, in his first game as a Celtic, suffered a devastating leg injury that silenced the arena and reminded everyone of the fragility of this game. It was a gut punch, not just to Boston, but to the league. Yet even without him, the Celtics rallied. Kyrie Irving flourished under Brad Stevens' system, and Jason Tatum blossomed into a star sooner than anyone expected. Meanwhile, in Houston, the Harden-Chris Paul duo looked legitimate. The Rockets weren't just racking up wins. They were beating the Warriors. They led the league in offensive efficiency, and Harden was the frontrunner for MVP almost wire to wire.
Harden fakes, gets past Crowder, gets inside, throws it over his shoulder and puts it in.
In Cleveland, things weren't so smooth. The Cavaliers struggled with chemistry, defense, and roster turnover. By mid-season, they flipped half the roster. Gone were Isaiah Thomas, Dwayne Wade, Derrick Rose, and Jay Crowder. In came Jordan Clarkson, Larry Nance Jr., George Hill, and Rodney Hood. LeBron somehow kept everything afloat. In Golden State, the machine kept rolling, though not as smoothly. Steph Curry missed time with injuries, and there were moments where Draymond and Durant butted heads. Still, though, their talent was undeniable. Even on autopilot, they were a juggernaut.
Green, Iguodala, back to Green!
All-Star Weekend, held in Los Angeles, tried something new. Team captains, LeBron and Steph drafted their squads, injecting real competitiveness into a game that had long felt like a layup line. The result was one of the most entertaining All-Star games in years. LeBron won All-Star Game MVP after leading a comeback and lacking in on defense to seal the win. As the regular season wound down, a quiet giant made noise. The process had arrived. Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons powered the Sixers to a third seed. And suddenly, they weren't just a fun story. They seemed like a threat. Then the playoffs began, and the narratives flipped. In the East, LeBron James faced a brutal 7-game test from the Indiana Pacers in round 1. Victor Oladipo had broken out and nearly sent the Cavs home early, but LeBron delivered vintage performances. Buzzer beaters, 40-point games, chased down blocks, and willed Cleveland forward.
James, 2 seconds, 1 second for the win! LeBron James delivers!
Boston, despite missing both Hayward and Kyrie, stunned the East. Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Terry Rozier led them past Milwaukee, then dismantled the 76ers in a series that exposed Philly's youth and inexperience. The Celtics were fearless. The Garden was alive. In the West, Houston tore through their side of the bracket, setting up a conference finals showdown with Golden State that had been months in the making. The Rockets took a 3-2 lead. Then, disaster struck. Chris Paul, who had been brilliant, suffered a hamstring injury in Game 5. He would unfortunately miss the rest of the series. In Game 7, the Rockets missed 27 straight three-pointers, and the Warriors escaped, bruised but alive. Cleveland was pushed to the edge by Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals. They needed 7 games to survive. LeBron played all 48 minutes in Game 7 and dragged the Cavs back to the finals. It was his 8th straight finals appearance, an almost mythic run of dominance. The finals, however, were a different story. Game 1 became an instant classic, but for all the wrong reasons. LeBron poured in 51 points, arguably the best game of his career, but a missed free throw by George Hill and a baffling blunder by J.R. Smith.
You get the feeling J.R. Smith thought they had the lead.
He didn't know the score.
I think exactly. That's a bad mistake by J.R. Smith.
That sent the game to overtime. The Cavs collapsed. LeBron's visible despair on the bench after that moment became an iconic image of frustration. LeBron even punched a whiteboard in frustration after Game 1, breaking his hand. The Warriors would go on to sweep the series. Durant, once again, was brilliant and took home his 2nd consecutive Finals MVP.
Kevin Durant way outside, delivers! Kevin Durant from downtown, it's a 6-point game.
Steph played with more freedom and flair, and LeBron, battered and exhausted, had given everything again. This loss marked the end of an era in Cleveland. LeBron had just completed one of the greatest statistical seasons of his career, dragging a fractured roster through war after war, culminating in an unforgettable 51-point masterpiece in Game 1. But even brilliance has its limits. His contract was up. The supporting cast was broken, and so was he. The weight of carrying a flawed team, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, had finally become too much. Durant, though victorious, still couldn't shake the cold reception from fans outside the Bay Area. He was the best player on the team, but admiration was in short supply. His back-to-back Finals MVPs only fueled the backlash. Fans viewed his move to Golden State as a shortcut, a betrayal of competitive spirit.
Back-to-back!
Meanwhile, Steph Curry, despite his brilliance and leadership, still had not won a Finals MVP, leading many to question his place in the all-time conversation. The Warriors were dominant, but outside of Oakland, respect came in fragments. As the year closed, the awards told the story of individual brilliance. James Harden finally won MVP after years of close calls. Ben Simmons took home Rookie of the Year. Rudy Gobert earned Defensive Player of the Year honors. Lou Will won Sixth Man. Victor Oladipo grabbed Most Improved. And Dwayne Casey, fired from Toronto right after the season, was Coach of the Year. As Golden State hoisted yet another banner, the rest of the league stirred with quiet anticipation. Jason Tatum, Ben Simmons, and Donovan Mitchell had grown from rising stars into real contenders. Joel Embiid had embraced his role as a dominant force. Giannis Antetokounmpo was evolving into something unguardable, and Anthony Davis appeared ready to stake his claim as the league's most complete player. The reigning dynasty stood tall, but the foundation beneath them was beginning to shift. The 2018-19 NBA season opened with a feeling of uncertainty. The Golden State Warriors were still the overwhelming favorite, a team so stacked that their dominance felt almost routine. But beneath the surface, the league was bubbling with change. The biggest headline entering the year was LeBron James joining the Los Angeles Lakers. After 8 straight finals appearances, he left the Eastern Conference for the first time in his career. The Lakers were rebuilding with youth. Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, and LeBron was now their centerpiece. The expectation wasn't a championship, not yet, but for the first time in years, the Lakers mattered again. In the meantime, Kawhi Leonard had been traded to the Toronto Raptors. After a messy exit from San Antonio, questions surrounded his health, loyalty, and desire. But the Raptors gambled big, sending fan favorite DeMar DeRozan to the Spurs in hopes that Kawhi could be the missing piece. It was a bold move for a franchise that had consistently come up short. Around that same time, the NBA welcomed a draft class that would reshape the future. Luka Doncic, drafted by the Hawks and traded to the Mavericks, landed in Dallas where Dirk Nowitzki took him under his wing as a mentor in what would be Dirk's final season. Trae Young, who went the other way to Atlanta, brought flash and swagger to a team desperate for a new identity. Other notable names included DeAndre Ayton, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Michael Porter Jr., all pieces of a generation ready to take the reins. And later in that same round, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander began his quiet rise, a name not yet feared, but one the league would soon learn to respect. The Boston Celtics entered the season with a problem most teams would envy: too much talent. Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward were returning to a squad that had just gone to the Eastern Conference Finals without them. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Terry Rozier weren't eager to take a step back. The tension was unspoken, but it was real. The Sixers continued to rise with Embiid and Simmons leading the charge, and the Bucks, under new coach Mike Budenholzer, were finally unlocking Giannis Antetokounmpo's full powers. Milwaukee surged to the top of the standings as Giannis bullied his way through defenders, becoming an unstoppable force. In the West, Denver quietly climbed the ladder behind Nikola Jokic's brilliance. The Trailblazers stayed steady with Dame and CJ. The Rockets had a rocky start but saw James Harden explode into one of the most prolific scorers the league had ever seen. From December through January, Harden was on an otherworldly tear.
He's got one of the nastiest handles in the game. You can't stop from getting to the basket. He's shooting threes. He's getting to the hole at will. He gets to the free throw line at will. He's averaging 40 over 18, 19 games.
The Warriors, while still dominant, started to show cracks. Chemistry issues began to surface, most notably a heated on-court exchange between Kevin Durant and Draymond Green that led to a suspension. The dynasty wasn't crumbling, but it wasn't indestructible anymore. All-Star Weekend in Charlotte became a showcase of the league's new era. It was team captains again, this time LeBron and Giannis. Kevin Durant won MVP after a scoring flurry in the second half, but it was the camaraderie and entertainment that stood out. The league was still clearly shifting towards player empowerment and narrative-driven basketball. The regular season ended with the Bucks owning the league's best record, Giannis winning his first ever MVP, and Dwayne Wade and Dirk Nowitzki receiving emotional farewells in their final games. Their retirements marked the end of an era. Two legends loved by fans and respected by peers, exiting with grace. The playoffs brought chaos. Damian Lillard ended Oklahoma City's season with, well,
Lillard, long-range three, and it's good! At the buzzer! Damian Lillard! Are you kidding me?
A shot that instantly became iconic. He waved goodbye as OKC's dreams collapsed. The Nuggets and Blazers battled through a grueling 7-game second-round series that tested every ounce of their will. Portland emerged victorious, clawing their way into the Western Conference Finals. But before all of that, Detroit had a moment worth remembering. Blake Griffin, after being traded to the Pistons, delivered a season that was nothing short of heroic. Playing through chronic knee pain and with a roster that offered little help, he turned in arguably the best season of his entire career. He averaged over 24 points per game, expanded his range beyond the arc, and evolved into a complete offensive engine. Game after game, he carried the franchise on his back, even dragging them into the playoffs through sheer force of will. In a year where many wrote the Pistons off, Blake gave fans a reason to believe again. He played on one leg by the end of the season, but never quit. Though they were ultimately swept by Giannis and the Bucks, Griffin's sacrifice, passion, and leadership became the emotional heartbeat of Detroit's season. It may not have ended in glory, but for Pistons fans, it was a chapter defined by pride, heart, and the unforgettable brilliance of one man refusing to fold. I couldn't make this video without talking about my Pistons, my bad. The Raptors and Sixers clashed in a heavyweight second-round series. Game 7 ended with Kawhi Leonard's legendary buzzer beater.
Is this the dagger? Game series. Toronto is won.
Sending Toronto into hysteria and Philly into heartbreak. It was the first Game 7 buzzer beater in NBA history. Giannis and the Bucks powered through to the Eastern Conference Finals. They took a 2-0 series lead on Toronto and looked poised to reach the finals. But Kawhi turned the tide. With unmatched defense and silent dominance, he led the Raptors to 4 straight wins, stunning Milwaukee and silencing the doubters. They clinched the series and advanced to the NBA Finals for the first time in franchise history. Out west, the Warriors faced adversity. Kevin Durant injured his calf in the second round, but even with their stars falling, the Warriors fought with pride. They reached their 5th straight finals. The 2019 NBA Finals were historic. It was the Raptors' first appearance, and Toronto embraced the moment with hunger unlike any other. Kawhi Leonard was clinical, composed, and relentless. Pascal Siakam broke out. Kyle Lowry shed years of playoff demons. Fred VanVleet, inspired after the birth of his son, caught fire. The Raptors defeated the Warriors in 6 games. It was a championship defined by grit, redemption, and resilience. For Canada, it was a moment of national pride. A nation that had never tasted NBA glory suddenly stood at the pinnacle of the sport. For Kawhi, it was a coronation. A second finals MVP earned through cold-blooded execution and unflinching calm. He silenced every doubt that had followed him from San Antonio in just 1 season. And for the Raptors franchise, it was the ultimate reward for years of heartbreak and near misses. A moment that would live forever in the hearts of fans from Toronto to Vancouver. The win didn't just make history, it redefined it. The loss for the Warriors didn't just end the series, it unraveled the league's most dominant empire. Durant's Achilles injury loomed a shadow over the future, and while he remained silent publicly, tensions with the team had already began to simmer. His relationship with Draymond had frayed months earlier. Now the sense of closure was missing. Clay's ACL tear in Game 6 added salt to the wound. Golden State, once untouchable, was now uncertain. The dynasty hadn't just lost, it had cracked from the inside. And though no one said it out loud, the writing was on the wall. Durant was already halfway out the door. This season's award winners had Giannis winning MVP. Luka Doncic took home Rookie of the Year. Rudy Gobert repeated as Defensive Player of the Year. Lou Williams won another six-man. Pascal Siakam was Most Improved. And Mike Budenholzer earned Coach of the Year honors. As the final buzzer echoed in the 2018-19 season, the league stood at a crossroads. Giannis had taken his first true leap into superstardom. Kawhi had authored one of the most composed and dominant postseason runs in history. And LeBron, adjusting to his new home in Los Angeles, watched it from the sidelines for the first time in over a decade. The torch had quietly passed, and with it, the NBA entered a bold new era, unwritten, unpredictable, and wide open. The 2010s weren't just a new chapter for the NBA. They were a reset. The league didn't just get faster or louder. It became something entirely new. The court expanded, the spotlight never blinked, and suddenly, every moment felt like it carried the weight of history. This was the decade where everything was questioned, challenged, and reshaped. Where dynasties rose overnight and just as quickly crumbled. Where legacies were made not just in championships, but in decisions, in comebacks, in the way a player carried themselves when the pressure hit the hardest. We watched as old legends took their final bows, and a new generation stepped into the light, not just to fill their shoes, but to make new footprints entirely. If the 2000s were about grit, then the 2010s were about evolution. The game didn't just change, it grew into something bigger than anyone could have ever imagined. Let me know what decade you want me to break down in the comment section down below. And guys, if you made it this far, seriously, thank you. I wish y'all understood how much work actually goes into these videos. So if y'all are still watching, drop a like, comment your favorite part, and subscribe, of course, if you are new. Thank you guys again, and I'll see you in the next one.